March of 2012 would be when I officially said to myself, I'm gonna start parkour. Didn't know how to do it or what I was doing.
Have you ever wanted to make money? Well, watch this. I will take you through a one lesson plan. £50 a week and you'll be just like me. Watch this. This is just crazy stuff. Oh my God, my bed. He took my 2-week trial and watch him go. You see, he's just like me. Don't fall. She's as stunty as me.
And ultimately, I would find myself doing it alone because I didn't have anyone that I knew that was into this thing called parkour. To me, I never heard the word before, so I can't imagine me going, hey, you in school, do you know what parkour is? And then probably giving me the big middle finger, you know. So I was just alone trying it by myself. But it would always pop in my head, like, this one question. It's like, am I ever going to find anyone to do this with? I see the videos of people training on YouTube that are like a big group of people. Here I am doing basically 1 volt every few weeks or something, just trying to learn something. Step vault, I think it was. And I was just constantly going to myself, am I ever going to find anyone to do this with? And then a few months later, it was like my prayers were answered. And then I would ultimately end up meeting my best friend, Ethan. In June of 2012, I don't remember the specific date, but I remember we was at a birthday party. It was my niece's birthday party. I just said birthday party like 3 times. So at one point, I'm just walking around the house, you know, I got kind of like, I felt like my social energy was draining due to being in a room full of people I didn't really know. I only knew my brother and a few other people. And then I walk in the kitchen, and then I look over and I just see this. I see my cousin playing on his iPod. Just imagine this is an iPod. He's playing on, I'm pretty sure like a gold iPod, I think, at the time. And he was playing some knockoff of GTA. And I think it was like Gang Wars or something like that. I could be completely... Or like Mafia City or something stupid. It was some knockoff thing. I remember playing on it. I was driving a bike and it literally glitched and went up a wall. It was completely stupid. But it made us laugh. And at one point, we just start talking about random stuff. And then this one question, which I won't forget, this is what really sparked our friendship. It was like, after he asked this question, it was like instant connection. He asked, oh, what do you do for fun? Like, what are you into? I told him into art and music. And I went, you know that game Mirror's Edge? I went like this, you know the game Mirror's Edge? Yeah, I know the game. I did the stuff off that, you know, like the movement and stuff. And he was like, yeah, me too. Something like that. I'm probably over romanticizing it, but it was basically like that. And so at the moment he said, yeah, me too, it was like the friendship was just born from there. Because at one point we'd gone outside from the party. We was like, you know, there wasn't too much to do. You remember, this is a little kid's birthday party, so there's really not much to do. So we go outside and he climbs on a wall and does a roll. And I remember I was just dumbfounded. I was like, I'd never seen that ever before in my life. Someone jump off a wall and roll. It was like something you see a superhero do. And at the time in the game Mirror's Edge, so I was like, whoa. And at one point, he even takes me on a patch of grass and he like goes down deep. And he teaches me the technique. He told me how to put my hands down and stuff. And within a couple tries and a couple fails, I did eventually get it. And you know what? I felt so hyped on the inside. I was like, I finally learnt something new. There was this abandoned building, like an abandoned factory next door to where the house party was. So we had a little exploring there. It was like also like our first mini urbex session. This was over 10 years ago now, and it's still something I think about. If anyone who's my best friend, I'm always glad it's Ethan. At one point in the party, the topic of my silly videos comes up, and at one point there was a bunch of people that commented on them. As I said last time, I had some negative comments. I remember Ethan was one of them, and it was like, Dave, you need to stop these videos, no offense, you're embarrassing yourself or something along those lines. And we get talking about it, and he told me it wasn't like he wasn't trying to be mean or anything. He actually thought something was up with me and that I was doing all these silly noises because I wasn't all there, and he was trying to save me from embarrassment. We giggled about it for a little bit because it was the absurdity of these weird videos of me acting a certain way. So I understand like people's reaction to them must have been strange. Like, you know me as this quiet, shy person, this quiet, shy kid, and then I'm also acting this weird way on camera with a towel on my head and a big massive zoot looking thing. So I can totally understand, and I look back at it now and I just laugh about the absurdity. Really flipping weird videos. At one point he loads it up on his BlackBerry phone, because I remember it was a BlackBerry phone with a blue case. And at one point other people see what we're doing in the house party, and then they're asking me to quote lines from a video, and so I do. And it's a surreal experience when you make something and people watch it and enjoy it and it makes people happy. There's something humbling about it that at the time I never really thought about, but now I do. It's like it brought people together, and it was like, with the aim why I still make videos nowadays is to bring people together and just have a laugh at my weirdness or enjoy whatever stories I have to tell. But it's a day I won't ever forget. And I also won't forget this moment. As we're leaving the house party, the police turn up. And you want to know why the police turned up? You remember when I said Ethan jumped off a wall and rolled? Well, we did that quite a lot that day. We kept jumping on the same wall. And I think at one point the people in that house must have got sick of it, so they phoned the police. But I had a plan in mind. I wasn't getting arrested on this day. Not that we would have gotten arrested. We would have most likely been told off and had a warning. But on the way out, Ethan and his mom and my brother were getting into a taxi. So at one point, they all sneak into this taxi, and it literally felt like a stealth movie. We got in this taxi and we rode past the police car, and then the taxi dropped us down to the bus stop. And I remember one of the last things Ethan said, he's like, "Dave, I'll see you on Monday and we can discuss more," or something along those lines. Remember, this was 10 years ago, so my memory is like not all there. Yeah, before that day, mine and Ethan's like friendship was basically non-existent as such. Although we're cousins and we're related, we only saw each other every so often. Like, before we moved house, I lived maybe 15 minutes away. So every so often I would go over and visit him, and we'd play with, at the time with us being young, we'd play with his action figures, or we'd play on his PS2, because I remember he had this wide variety of games I'd never seen before. But that was the only like sort of interactions we ever had with one another until that house party. So it was like, at this point, this was our friendship was starting to blossom like a flower. It was starting to blossom. I'm so weird. Why can't I just give normal descriptions? Okay, with this next bit, I like to call it the leap of faith. And that is because of what ended up happening. So that following day at school, I meet up with Ethan because we went to the same high school, and we never really spoke to each other much then either. But at one point we were just hyped about what we'd been doing at a house party. So it was like after school, I'm pretty sure that day or the next. I'm pretty sure it was that day after school or something like that. I went to his house, we got changed, we got in our parkour clothes, and we were very much inspired by Mirror's Edge, because I remember we used to wear gloves to do parkour. That's how new we were to it. We used to wear gloves. I remember at one point, Ethan had a black pair of fingerless gloves. I had a blue and grey pair. I remember I'd just have the right glove on all the time, just to imitate Mirror's Edge. But at one point, he starts talking up our old school. He starts telling me about the stories of him going in there with other people, and at one point they were inside the gymnasium area, and at one point they were in there, someone was lobbing chairs and tables, and it just sounded scary, but I was just hyped to go because this was my first like proper session into parkour, and it kind of looked like, how do I describe it, like a horror movie, like a place hasn't been touched in years, so there was all vines growing up out the floor, and it was just this creepy looking building. But it's weird to think that maybe like a year before it was a school, because I remember in 2010 our school moved like a while away, so then that building was just left there. So it was weird to see a school I used to go to now abandoned and creepy looking. I would have been so pissed had that not been recording. So we're just going through the rooms, and it's like it gets really dark at one point. We just have to kind of walk around. We didn't have any torches, so it just got really creepy. But then we start walking around the building, and then we spot this one roof, and we was like determined to get there. But because I was very weak at this point, Ethan had to help me a lot. I could not climb anything. Every time I would climb something, Ethan would have to like get my foot and just kind of prop me up, so I was able to do it. And then we finally got to the roof. I found another way up, and we went through a sunroof. You'd have to wedge your body and like go across. But then once you were up there, it was such a nice view. But as we were sitting up there, we were listening to some music on his iPod, which he would later end up losing on that school somewhere. I don't know where. I think it was in the grass. We never found it. And then we both spot this one roof gap. Why don't we just like walk up to the edge and walk away? Walk up to the edge and walk away. But that day I recall we never did it, and it was starting to get dark, so we had to call it a day. That very next day at school, I have something called Dress to Impress Day. What that is, in short, it's essentially in year 10 at high school, the one I went to specifically, you would dress up in smart clothing, and then you would go and have a like interview, because you would have something called work experience, where you would have to spend 2 weeks at a business just to teach you to get ready for working life when you leave school. I know that sounds boring, but it ties into this. I was coming out the toilets, weirdly enough, and as I'm walking, I see Ethan coming down the stairs. He goes, "Dave, you want to meet up after school today and go back to the school and do the roof jump?" I said, "Yeah, it depends on what time this interview finishes." Turned out the interview was a big waste of time because the school sent me to the wrong place, and I literally went all the way. I went on this long journey in a taxi, and it all turned out it was a big waste of time. But I was just happy that it was over, to be honest. Everything worked out in the end. I did voluntary somewhere else. But it was like, as soon as I got in, I messaged Ethan, and it was like, "Yeah, it's all over now, so when do you want to meet up?" He's like, "Come straight to mine and we'll go in the school." So it was kind of a rush, really. I had to get home, get changed, and get on that bus to Ethan's. We get there, we climb in the building again, yada, yada, yada. We get to the roof, and this time, on this day, we were determined to get this jump. No matter how long it took us, but we were determined. So at one point, we do this. We go back. Just imagine this is us running to the roof. So at one point, we're running. We're going like that, just pretend. And then we're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. And at one point, I just stopped because I got scared. At this point, Ethan had no choice but to keep on running. He'd already got loads of speed, so I stopped. And then Ethan like goes across like, whoa. And when Ethan landed, he rolled, and then he started laughing, and he was like, and I was like, "What? I did the jump?" And I was getting ready to do it. He was like, "Dave, no, don't do it. You go all the way around and meet me at the other end." And I was like, "What? I can do the jump." And he was like, "Dave, no, go around. Get me." And so I had to climb down the building. Climbing down was luckily a bit easier than climbing up. And then go all the way around, climb up. Luckily it was easier. Luckily it wasn't too difficult. Then I met him and I had to kind of carry him. And it was really awkward because I was a weakling at this point. I'm not saying I'm that strong nowadays, but carrying another person is not very easy, especially when they're limping. And yeah, so we leave the school after essentially helping climb out. And then I have to leave him at the bottom of his road, and at one point I'm running up to his house, and his mum's like, "What's happened?" I could see him at the bottom of the road. I was like, I explained what happened. He did the jump, and when he landed he really hurt his foot. So it was me, Ethan's mum, my cousin, his uncle Michael. We all run down, and then I ended up going home. I caught the bus, and a few hours later I was going to message off Ethan saying, "Dave, I broke my foot." Looking back, it really did suck that happened literally the second session in of us doing parkour together. I remember it took like 6 to 8 weeks before he was able to properly do stuff again. And I would still go round his house and stuff. He'd still ask me to come over and we'd play like Mirror's Edge. We'd just play a load of random games that he had. But at one point the cast did come off. We were in his living room and we had the Mirror's Edge music on, and we were going around the living room, just literally climbing on the sofa and chair. The topic of training again did come up, and Ethan did say he wasn't too sure whether he was going to do it again. I think I did a little bit of convincing. I was trying to just type it back up. It's like, I think through us talking about it and like getting hyped up about it again, Ethan did give it another go, and I'm so glad he genuinely did, because I can just imagine like a different timeline of events where Ethan never got back into parkour, and slowly but surely our friendship dying off because we didn't have anything else other than video games in common. And that would have been, I don't want to imagine that timeline, to be honest. Slowly but surely we did start going out training a bit more. We'd go by his house and there was a bunch of wars and stuff. We'd start being known in the local area. Same old thing would happen. We would be known for something and then people would just love to make fun of it and take the piss out of us, but we didn't care. We just carried on. And we had a lot more people who liked us and a lot more people than that hated us, if you know what I mean. And we didn't let anyone stop us. Yeah, you F those haters, man. On to the next bit. Let it fade to dark and me gawk down the beast. Don't know what that means. So me and Ethan would train for like a number of months, and our friendship was definitely getting closer. Like we'd slowly have our own inside jokes and things like that. And then slowly he starts talking about his uncle, my cousin, Michael. Ethan starts talking about like the things they would do together. These home movies they did called Metal Gear Missions, inspired by the game Metal Gear, but it was their own like franchise.
It's over.
It's already over, American.
Hand over the virus now.
Go to hell, Ethan.
You know what? Looking back at one of the segments from that montage I put together, there was just one bit where Michael's grabbing Ethan like that for the character. But just imagine if you were walking by like this. I say, Deirdre, look, that poor man strangling a child. So imagine if you're walking by and you didn't see the camera, but you just saw like an adult strangling a child for a briefcase with nothing in it. But to look at it now, it's like, it's so amazing to see how close they were, and like how they would make these movies knowing that they wouldn't really go out to anyone. It would just be like their tight-knit thing, and it's such a wholesome thing that an uncle and nephew can make together. It's like, it's something that I wish years ago, I've never said this before, I wish I'd have known even years ago, because you never know, I could have been in those movies had Michael wrote me in the script or whatever. But it's like, I know we had our own home movies, but it's cool to see Ethan was exposed to it too at a young age. But I do remember Ethan saying to me he hated doing the talking parts of those movies. You know, the little bit just where he has the gun. Ethan said he hated doing those bits, which not everyone likes doing voice acting or anything like that. No one like, you know, not everyone likes doing stuff like that. But it's so funny looking back, because now we do videos together half the time. So strange. Outside of the Metal Gear movies they would make, Ethan also talked about something called urbexing. And what that is the exploration of abandoned and desolate buildings. That's my little description of it anyway. Back then I think there was only one forum site which was called 28 Days Later. It was like this big forum site which is still active, but there's a lot more different ones now that exist. But back then that was the one you went to if you wanted an abandoned place. And it just shows you in the local area or other parts of the country or all over the world, these abandoned places that you can go and check out. Urbexing. What can I say? It's a crazy world. I don't know. How do you end segments? Does it just go black or something? So when me and Ethan weren't together doing our silly thing, he would be out with Michael just exploring some abandoned places or whatnot. And I don't know how it happened, but at one point Ethan must have been talking up me and him training, and Michael started to gain an interest. He was like, oh, okay, maybe I should come out with you and Dave one of the times, and I could take you some of the places I know. So it started to become this thing. I remember in September or October, I don't remember the specifics. It was getting colder, the weather, so it could have been later in that year. Me, Ethan and Michael all went out for our first parkour session together. What is that on the floor? So it's jabbing me in the foot. That has been jabbing me in the foot the whole time. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. This little screw has been jabbing me. This little screw has been jabbing me in the foot the whole flipping time. You know when they say you'll get nailed?
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.